So I guess instead of a class, I should refer to what national income economists call the FIRE sector: finance, insurance, and real estate. And it's a symbiotic sector that's emerged to become the characteristic central planners of the economy. 100 years ago, people thought, well, right now we have the big corporations, heavy industry, the steel companies, the railroads doing the planning. We think government should be doing the planning. That was a socialist position. But now you don't have government doing the planning. You don't have industry doing the planning. You have Wall Street and the financial sector doing the planning. Nobody 100 years ago expected anything like this. So you have essentially a new class, a new bureaucracy, not the bureaucracy that Hayek warned about in The Road to Serfdom doing the planning, but a much more centralized planning bureaucracy on Wall Street in America, the City of London in England, the Bourse in France, Frankfurt in Germany, Shanghai in China. You have financial interests that are somehow centralizing all of the planning power and all of the economic surplus in their own hands in a way that's impoverishing the rest of society. This is something entirely new, and the political system has not come to terms with it.
You said that when you're devaluing the price of the currency, that what you're devaluing really is the price of labor. Could you elaborate?
When all countries have common prices for fuels, raw materials, machinery, and hard currency credit. So when the currency goes up and down, the actual global price of all of these basic inputs, raw materials, remains the same. What are affected are domestic prices and costs, and these are mainly labor and real estate. For instance, let's look back in the 1980s when the United States was pushing Japan to increase the value of the yen. The yen went up in price against the dollar, but the Japanese paid exactly the same global rate for their oil and iron and steel and copper and raw materials. And the only thing that really went up was Japanese labor costs. Similarly, if the United States dollar goes down to make more exports, America is still going to have to pay the same price that other countries pay for its fuels and raw materials and equipment. And what will become less expensive will be the price of labor, which will be worth less in terms of euros or other harder currencies. So devaluation basically is a means of lowering labor. In Greece, for instance, if Greece were to leave the Eurozone and adopt the drachma and devalue, its foreign debts are in hard currency, so it would have to pay more in drachma to pay its euro debts and dollar debts and other foreign currency debts. It would have to continue to pay world prices for all of its basic inputs, but Greek labor would be devalued relative to foreign currency. So the idea is to lower the cost of labor on the theory that it's labor costs that determine international prices.
I'm speaking with financial economist and historian Dr. Michael Hudson. Today's show, Guns, Finance, and Butter. Finance is the new mode of warfare. I'm Bonnie Faulkner. This is Guns and Butter. So then you're saying that with a dollar devaluing, American labor actually earn less. They have less buying power.
In global terms, they have less buying power. If the dollar goes down and prices are set globally for machinery and imports, then the cost of what America imports is going to go up. The cost of what it imports in China, for instance, will go up, and Walmart will have to charge people higher prices. The cost of its fuels and metal is going to go up. So the effect will be to squeeze the budget of employees and to raise the economy's domestic cost structure faster than wages respond by rising. The idea of devaluing the dollar is to raise the cost of living and not raise wages so that you increase the rate of exploitation of labor.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense, particularly in view of the fact that most of the things that people buy these days are imported.
That's right. As America is deindustrialized, it's shifted production abroad and it's had to import more and more of its essentials. Its exports are primarily food, and now it's trying to raise the price of world grain by using corn and other crops for a gasohol to drive down the price of oil, and it's created an artificial world food surplus. The aim of the government today is what it was under the Carter administration, to create a food crisis to starve out third world countries and make them more dependent on the United States, so the United States government can say, we will give you more food, but you have to sell off your raw materials to American firms. You have to get rid of your democracy and put in a government that we appoint, so that we can have Hillary Clinton in charge of your policy instead of your own people. And that's how the Americans basically are impoverishing the third world countries by insisting, for instance, through the World Bank and IMF, that they will only give loans if other countries do not feed themselves and depend on American grain. Now that America is using the grain to make alcohol and gasoline, there's no more grain available to feed these people. So the result is African starvation as official American policy.
So you're saying that the United States uses the World Bank and the IMF to force other countries to import our agriculture.
That's been the explicit aim, and I've described that in my book, Superimperialism, how the mainstay of the U.S. balance of payments for the last 50 years has been agriculture, not industry. And in addition to agriculture, of course, military exports to the oil exporting countries, so that they're permitted to charge as much as they want for their oil, as long as they agree to spend it on buying American airplanes. Saudi Arabia is now buying tanks to use against its population. The idea is to arm the countries to prevent their domestic populations from bringing about a democratic government. That's what's creating the Arab Spring and the reaction against the governments, wasting their economic surplus on buying American arms and agreeing not to promote agriculture, but to buy American food, to essentially finance dependency on the United States. That's the role of the World Bank and IMF, to make other countries dependent on the United States.
Right, and the way that they affect that is to put the other countries in debt.
That's right, and not only in debt, but in food dependency on the United States, so that at the stroke of a foreign policy, Hillary Clinton can say, you're not on our approved list, we are going to starve your population until you agree to follow American policy and sell off your public domain to more American companies. So this is why I said that finance is the new mode of warfare. Finance and food dependency achieve today what military invasion was required to achieve in centuries past.